other example was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was at his most difficult, painful period of his entire life. And this came after the death of his beloved wife. And then shortly, within the same time period, he also lost his uncle. And these were two of the most beloved people to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And not only were they among the most beloved, but they were also among his greatest supporters. So two of his greatest supporters were taken at around the same time. And that's why this year was called Aam al-Husn. It was the year of sadness, where he lost Khadija radiallahu anha and his uncle in the same period. Now, after going through this tragic loss, he goes to Ta'if. And when he goes to Ta'if, he's going there to get support. He's going there, during a time which is very difficult, looking for someone who will support him. And when he gets there, as you know the story, he was treated so badly, and he was thrown out of the city, and he was pelted with stones to the extent that he was made to bleed. And the Prophet ﷺ, this type of treatment was given to him at a time when he was already grieving. So if you can imagine where he was at this point. And then he left, and this is what I want you to focus on. So this is a man who has just lost his beloved wife and has just lost his beloved uncle who raised him and took care of him and protected him and supported him. And now he's been treated in this way, where he came to he came in peace to these people, and this is how they treated him. So at this point, he makes a really profound dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I advise everyone to look up this dua, the dua of Ta'if. It's so powerful. But there's a couple reflections I just want to make about this dua, very inspiring. First of all, at this point, what was the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's reaction? See, a lot of times when we're put in a situation where things, when they say, when it rains, it pours. Has that ever happened to you in your life? A point in your life where it's like one thing goes wrong, but then everything goes wrong, and it feels like everything just keeps on going wrong. One loss after another. So at this point, it's one thing after another. How does he respond? Is he angry? Is he angry at the people? Is he angry at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, you're going to see. First, he calls out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and listen to what he says. He complains, and I want to emphasize this here. Usually when things go tough for us, we complain about that which is causing it, right? Sometimes we even go to the extent of blaming God. How could you do this to me? Why me? It's not fair, right? Sometimes we react this way, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for protection from that type of reaction. But the Prophet ﷺ at this point, he says, I complain to you. Who's he complaining about? He says, I complain to you about my own weakness, about my own inability. In other words, he's complaining to Allah about the fact that he's only human, and the fact that his own inabilities. He's not complaining about Allah. He's turning to Allah about himself. He's humbling himself. And then, and this is the other part I really want to focus on, he calls out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this point, and he says that if you are not angry with me, then I don't mind. He says, if you are not angry with me, then I don't mind. So you see again his focus. And the reason I brought up these stories is because I want you to understand and reflect on the focus of the Prophet ﷺ's heart, right? With Aisha radiallahu anha, the focus of his heart was what? Allah and her relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It wasn't the people. It wasn't what are they going to say. It wasn't how's this going to appear on me. How's this going to look on me? And then here, his focus again is on Allah. He says, if you are not angry with me, even though he had been through so much trial at this point, right? In fact, later on when he was asked, what was the hardest time in your life? He said it was that time, the time of Ta'if.